Hey there, mathematicians. It's Miss Johnson, and today we're going to be practicing with our converting from fractions to decimals to percents. Before we start, though, I wanted to give you a couple things to watch out for. So if you want to go to your last flap, and if you don't have a foldable, remember you can be writing these notes in your notebook, okay? So I want us to go to the last flap, and you're going to end up doing this mixed practice. But I want us to do some things up here at the top of this first. So these fraction decimal percent relationships here are really ones that you should have memorized. So I don't know how your teacher's going to want to do this, but these ones are used all the time. Okay, you use them all the time, and it's just a really good idea to have these memorized where you don't have to divide the fraction or move the decimal or any of that. You just know them, okay? So just because you use them so much, it just make your math faster, okay? There are some things that I want us to watch out for. Remember, it's good to learn from your mistakes, but it's better to learn from other people's mistakes. So I'm going to show you some common mistakes that people make and ways that you can think about it to help you, okay? So, let's just take the fraction, let's just take one right here that we know, okay? 3/4. And when you look at 3/4, is that a fraction greater than a whole or less than a whole? It's less than a whole, right? So this is less than 1, right? 3/4 is less than 1, okay? So just remember that in your head, it's less than 1. This is a mistake. So what I'm about to do is a mistake. This is the mistake, okay? The mistake is the child doesn't do Nito. You don't do Nito. Instead, you say 4 divided by 3. Okay, when we divide that, 3 goes into 4 once. Subtract, I get 1. Bring down my 0. 3 goes into 10. Bring up my decimal. 3 goes into 10 3 times. That'll be 9. Subtract, I get 1. Bring it down, right? So this is going to be repeating because that's going to keep getting 10, 9, 10, 9, right? So I'm going to put my line right there. Now, is 3/4 going to be equal to 1 3/10? Now think about that for a second. Is 3/4 going to be equal to 1 3/10? No. Why not? Because 3/4 is what? Less than 1. No. Because 3/4 is less than 1. So when you're doing this, you're probably going to make the mistake of not doing Nito and forgetting and not putting the numerator on the inside. But when you finish and you've got the division done and you think about what you did, 3/4, can that be equal to 1 3/10? If you think about it, you say, no, it can't be because this fraction is less than 1. So that means this cannot be right. It cannot be greater than 1. Okay, so you have to use some reasonableness and some sense, okay? But this mistake right here is the most common mistake that kids make with this whole relationship of converting fractions, decimals to percents, okay? So watch out for that mistake, okay? And if you do make the mistake, you can catch it because of your reasonableness, what you know about fractions, okay? I also kind of want to give you some thoughts about solving a simpler problem. Okay, sometimes you're going to get a strange percent thrown at you or a strange decimal thrown at you. Like, let's say that we have the percent, this percent. Okay, that's not a common percent that we're going to see very often, right? So we might not remember. Wait, I forgot. Do I go do I move the decimal 2 places to the right or do I move it 2 places to the left? Oh, I can't remember. What do I do? Right? So when that happens, go to one that you know and help remind yourself. Okay? So if you have these memorized, you can use these, or yeah, let's use 25%. Okay? So let's do this. Solve a simpler problem. Okay, so let's use 25%. This is a percent, so I want to start with a percent. And your teacher told you make 25% a decimal. Well, you would know what to do, right? You would put the decimal here. I'm going to rewrite it. You would put the decimal here, and then you would move the decimal 2 places to the left. And your answer would be 25 hundredths. So guess what you're going to do with this one? The same thing. You don't have to be confused. Okay? If this percent, to change this percent to this decimal, you have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. Then to change this percent to a decimal, you're going to have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. So you're dividing by the 100, right? So you rewrite it. Don't move it to the right. I didn't move it to the right here. We moved it to the left. So 1, 2. I'll put 0, 0, and this is a super, super tiny number. So I'm going to count my zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So decimal's here, so 4 behind it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, and then the 5. So 5 thousandths percent is equivalent to tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, 500 thousandths. Super little amount. Okay, very, very small amount. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. So we solve a simpler problem. We do one that we know. So pick a problem you know. Okay, so 1, pick a problem you know how to do. And then 2, do the same thing to the one that's hard. We're just going to say to the other one. Well, we'll say to the hard one. Okay, so don't let your brain trick you into thinking, oh, I don't know how to do that, because the number is one that you might not have seen before. You do know how to do it, right? Just do one that you know how to do, and then just apply the same thing. Okay? All right, so those are the 2 big watch out ones that I wanted to talk to you about. I'm hoping that you wrote those notes down. Okay? Now, you are going to practice here in the chart. You're going to practice 4 ones by yourself. Okay, so you're going to take 4 fifths. You're going to figure out what the decimal is here, and then you're going to figure out what the percent is here. It has some space there for you to do your work. Then it also says shades the value. Okay, so 4 fifths. So right here, you're going to shade 4 fifths. Okay, now we haven't practiced that, but hopefully you should remember. So you're going to take your whole and divide it into how many pieces? 5. So you're going to draw 4 lines. Now just do your very, very best to make the lines equally spaced, right? Now Ms. Johnson is absolutely terrible at this, so don't laugh at me, okay? Making them equal pieces. No, I didn't do too bad that time. I'm not good at it at all, though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, however many pieces you need. So we needed 5 pieces. You draw 1 less line, because when you draw 1 line, it breaks it up into 2 pieces. So you need 1 less line than you do pieces. So 5 pieces, so I only need 4. So let's shade it. And you can shade it with your pencil, that's fine. Just, right? So this is 4 fifths. Now we're going to figure out the decimal. So go ahead, pause it, and then figure out your decimal. Look back at your notes, back in your foldable if you don't remember, okay? And then figure out the percent, and then unpause it so you can check it. Okay, so we're going to do neato. All right, numerator n denominator out, my decimal, my 0. 5 can't go into 4, bring up my decimal. 5 goes into 40, 8 times. So it's 8/10. So 4/5 is 8/10. And then the percent, so if I know it's 8/10, then I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the right. Put a 0 there. So it's going to be 80%. I'm going to go ahead and label that over here too. So this is 8/10, and it is 80%. Notice it's more than half, and we definitely have more than half shaded in our diagram. All right, so now kind of get the idea. Go ahead and try to pause the video and try number 2, and then you can unpause it and check. All right, so 45 hundredths. Well, I'm not going to take this and divide that into 100 pieces. That would be crazy, right? Crazy. I could, I know this is half, right? That's half, or 50%. And this is a little bit less than half. So I'm just going to, it's just an estimate anyway, right? Just going to shade a little bit less than half. A little bit less than half. Okay, so I'm going to do the easy one first. 45 hundredths. If I move it, that'll be 45%. Which I was right? A little bit less than 50%. Now this, remember there's 2 ways to change it to the fraction. You can say it 45 hundredths, so 45 over 100. Or if you don't know your place value, remember it's 2 numbers, so you put 2 zeros. Now what number goes into 45 and 100? Remember, you can't leave it 45 hundredths. You have to simplify. So that'll be 9. And then 5 goes into 120 times. So 9/20. All right. So go ahead, pause. And then, actually, let me show you this before you pause. Let me show you how to break this up into 10 pieces. With a little bit more precision than just drawing 9 lines. Okay, draw your 50% line. Right? So that's your halfway mark. And if this is 70%, we can break this up into tens, and each 10 will be 100%. Each one will be 10%. Okay? So to do that, you put 4 lines over here, and then 4 lines over here, and then that gives you 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It gives you a little bit more precision than just drawing lines. Okay? All right, so 70%. So that means 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So that's 70%. Okay? All right, now pause the video. After you do that, pause the video and then switch the 70% to a decimal and a fraction. Okay? All right, so 70%. My decimal's here. I'm going to move it to the left. Move it. So it's going to be 0.7. If you put the 0, it's okay. It's unnecessary, though, because you're just telling me that there's 0 hundredths. Okay, so you don't need to put it. Okay, so say your decimal. It's 7/10. 7/10, so 7 over 10. Remember, if you don't know your place value, there's 1 number there behind the decimal. So you put 1 0. Okay. All right, pause the video and try number 4. All right, so 1/100th is 1 out of 100 pieces. I am not dividing this little bitty thing into 100 pieces. 1 out of 100 would be like, if I have $100, I'm going to give you $1. So that's super little amount. So I'm just going to draw one little bitty line right there. 1/100th, very, very small amount. Okay? No. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so 0.01 1/100th. Move it. It's 1%. And then, right, so we divided by we multiplied by 100, so we moved it to the right, so 1%. So 1/100th would be 1/100. So if it was $1, 100 pennies, you would get 1 penny. So very small amount, right? All right, so good job, y'all. Make sure you keep your foldable, keep your notes. Changing fractions to decimals to percents is something you're going to use throughout 6th grade, throughout 7th grade, throughout 8th grade, and you'll even use it in high school. Okay, so it is something important, so make sure you keep your foldable just in case you forget how to do some of these. You're going to be doing a lot of practice with this too, so you're going to want your foldable to be handy. Just follow the directions of whatever your teacher is going to ask you to do with it. Okay, but don't lose it. It's important.